Welcome to our deep dive, where we'll be exploring impactful leadership and the legacies that outlast us.
Sounds fascinating.
We're going to glean insights from John C. Maxwell's The 21 Most Powerful Minutes in a Leader's Day. He delves into those timeless principles using some pretty interesting biblical examples.
Oh, using those ancient narratives to find leadership qualities we can apply today.
Exactly. And to help us unearth those gems, we have an expert in leadership and legacy building.
Thrilled to be here. Maxwell's approach is captivating. He takes these stories and unveils these really enduring leadership qualities.
Let's jump right in. Maxwell kicks things off with Deborah.
A judge in ancient Israel.
Right. And her story illustrates the law of respect. She led her people to victory, even though societal norms at the time, well, they kind of limited women in leadership.
Absolutely. But she didn't lean on her title. Deborah was all about action, She earned that respect by consistently exceeding expectations, empowering everyone around her, demonstrating strategic foresight. She was known for her wisdom and ability to resolve conflicts. She guided her people with incredible vision.
He mentions Barak, who she appointed as the army's commander.
Initially, he was a bit hesitant.
But he ended up thriving in that role. It really shows Deborah's knack for spotting potential in others, even when they doubted themselves.
It does, and by sharing power, she showed a really secure and confident leadership style. Deborah wasn't threatened by others' success. She fostered it. Empowering Barak speaks volumes about her strength as a leader.
How can someone listening to this apply this principle of earned respect to their leadership journey?
That's the core of it. If we look at Deborah's example, respect isn't just handed to you because of a position or title, it's earned through consistent actions, demonstrated competence, and the ability to inspire. We should constantly ask ourselves, how are we earning the respect of those we lead and collaborate with?
That's a great question. Moving on, Maxwell brings up the law of the lid. He uses two kings of Israel as contrasting examples, Saul and David.
Both began with such promise, but their paths really diverged.
Saul had some early wins, but ultimately he was held back by internal barriers, fear, impatience, and unwillingness to acknowledge his shortcomings. These lids, as Maxwell calls them, stopped Saul from hitting his full potential as a leader.
Very true. And in contrast, David, while not perfect, actively sought personal growth. He was willing to learn and accept guidance from others to overcome his own limitations.
Maxwell points out Saul's impulsive sacrifice, which went directly against divine instructions. It seemed like Saul was more concerned with outward appearances than genuine leadership.
An insightful observation. Think about Jonathan, David's advisor and friend. He helped David see and overcome his limitations.
It shows the importance of having a trusted mentor or colleague who can offer a fresh perspective and help us see our blind spots.
Absolutely. So we have to ask ourselves, what are our lids, those internal things holding us back? And are we actively trying to address them through introspection, seeking mentorship, or staying open to constructive criticism?
From individual limitations, Maxwell shifts to the power of teams, using David's mighty men to illustrate the law of the inner circle. These weren't just any warriors. They were highly skilled individuals, fiercely loyal to David, essential to his victories.
A diverse range of talents, seasoned warriors, strategists, those known for adaptability and problem-solving skills. A true high-performing team.
How can we take this model and build a strong inner circle in today's leadership context?
Maxwell highlights specific qualities. Look for strong character, people who demonstrate integrity, loyalty, and commitment to ethical conduct, even when things get tough.
So it's not just about skills and experience, it's about shared values and a unified commitment to a purpose.
Definitely. Prioritize people who are competent in their areas of expertise. They don't need to be masters of everything, but they should excel in their roles and contribute to the team's overall success.
Besides strong character and competence, what other attributes should we seek?
Look for resourceful individuals, people who can build relationships and have a knack for spotting both opportunities and potential challenges.
Having that sixth sense for what's coming seems so important.
The most effective leaders can often identify problems before they even appear, or spot opportunities others miss. They build teams that can execute plans, anticipate future needs, and address them proactively. And let's not forget loyalty. David's mighty men were devoted, willing to put their lives on the line for his vision. That commitment is invaluable to any leader with big goals.
Shifting from teams, Maxwell dives into empowerment, using Barnabas to exemplify the law of empowerment. Barnabas mentored Paul, who went on to become one of the most influential figures in Christian history.
Barnabas's impact went beyond just teaching. He truly empowered Paul. He saw potential in Paul that others missed or feared because of his past. His belief in Paul, his encouragement, the opportunities he provided were so important to Paul's development.
Empowering someone who might surpass you takes a certain amount of security, wouldn't you say?
Without a doubt, true empowerment needs a leader who is secure enough to invest in others' growth. Even if those individuals eventually take on roles the leader held, it's about relinquishing control and trusting their potential.
What a defining characteristic of Barnabas.
For sure. This challenges us as leaders. Are we secure enough to empower those we lead? Do we create environments where they can learn, grow, and ultimately step into leadership roles themselves?
It's a great question to think about.
The law of empowerment suggests that the best leaders aren't the ones clinging to power, but the ones who share it freely. They multiply their impact by developing others.
From empowering individuals, Maxwell moves to the law of reproduction, which he differentiates from mentorship, using the story of Moses and Joshua, a leader-to-leader legacy that spans generations.
It demonstrates how leadership isn't just about giving knowledge. It's about purposefully cultivating other leaders. Maxwell breaks it down into 3 levels. Level 1 is teaching, transferring knowledge and skills. Level 2 is influence, where leaders inspire and motivate. But level 3, reproduction, that's where the magic happens.
Tell me more about that third level.
At level 3, the leader replicates their leadership in others. They create a ripple effect that expands exponentially. They cultivate more leaders who then develop even more leaders.
Like Moses, who knew his time was limited and intentionally prepared Joshua to lead the Israelites. It was a deliberate process that needed patience, investment, and a willingness to let go.
Exactly. So we need to ask ourselves, are we just giving information, or are we actually developing leaders to carry the torch?
What would that look like in practice?
It can take many forms. Providing growth opportunities, decision-making responsibilities, giving constructive feedback, creating a culture where leadership is valued and nurtured, recognizing the potential in others, and giving them the tools to blossom into leaders.
Maxwell then introduces the law of buy-in through the story of Gideon, another unlikely leader. Gideon was full of self-doubt. He felt inadequate for the task of leading against a powerful enemy.
He was hiding in a wine press when the angel appeared. Not exactly your charismatic leader.
He wasn't seeking the spotlight.
Right. But despite being hesitant, Gideon gradually gained his people's trust and confidence. He did it through a series of actions and by consistently showing competence and bravery.
So it wasn't about some big speech. It was about steadily building trust and demonstrating his worthiness through action.
Precisely. He started with small victories, rallied a small group, and tested things out before going all in. Through these actions, he proved himself worthy of their trust and commitment.
He tested his leadership on a smaller scale first.
That's a great way to put it, and it shows us something important. Do we instill confidence in those we lead? Are we earning their buy-in with consistent actions, transparency, and genuine concern for them?
Having a great idea is one thing, but getting people to believe in it enough to follow you is another.
Absolutely. The law of buy-in is all about building trust and commitment so leaders can truly mobilize their teams and achieve remarkable things.
Maxwell then moves to the law of the Big Mo, about harnessing momentum to achieve extraordinary things. He contrasts King Solomon, who built upon the momentum of his father David, with Rehoboam, who squandered it.
It's like that snowball effect. As it rolls, it picks up power, but you need to carefully steer it.
Solomon inherited a kingdom already moving in a positive direction thanks to David's leadership. But he didn't just coast, he expanded it, focusing on wisdom, partnerships, economic advancement, leading Israel into unprecedented prosperity.
He built the temple, expanded trade, nurtured relationships with other nations, bringing a period of growth and achievement.
But his son Rehoboam went a completely different direction. He rejected advice from seasoned advisors and listened to his peers instead. These decisions alienated his people and split the kingdom.
He essentially hit the brakes on all that momentum.
A crucial lesson for us: momentum isn't self-sustaining. It needs continuous effort, especially during times of transition or when we face new challenges.
Leaders need to be aware of the momentum they inherit and make choices to maintain it or redirect it.
It's not just about riding the wave, it's about shaping it. How do we effectively manage momentum?
We can seek guidance from wise counsel, empower others to contribute, celebrate milestones to keep the enthusiasm up, and constantly look for ways to innovate and improve.
Next, we look at the law of priorities illustrated by Peter, the disciple who went from impulsive to strategic leader.
Peter's journey really shows how prioritizing can amplify a leader's influence. He was known for being impulsive, often acting without thinking things through.
He's the one who tried to walk on water and then started to sink.
That's him. But over time, with Jesus' guidance, Peter learned to prioritize his time and efforts. He knew he couldn't do it all and had to focus on the most critical tasks.
So how did he change his approach?
He became willing to delegate. As the early Christian community's needs grew, Peter didn't try to do it all. He empowered others, picking 7 capable people to oversee things like distributing food to widows, which freed him to teach and preach.
He used the strengths of others to increase his impact.
Exactly, and this is a valuable lesson for us. Are we prioritizing effectively? Are we bogged down in less important tasks? Or are we spending our time on things that get us closer to our goals?
It's so easy to get lost in the day-to-day and lose sight of the bigger picture.
That's why it's important for leaders to step back and see if they're using their time in a way that matches their overall vision and objectives.
From prioritizing, we move to the law of sacrifice, illustrated by the story of Moses.
Moses' life shows that effective leadership often means giving up personal comfort, accepting difficulties, and making sacrifices for the greater good. Remember, he had a life of privilege in Pharaoh's court, but left it all to answer a higher calling.
And he faced a lot of resistance. 40 years wandering in the wilderness couldn't have been easy.
No, they were not. But those trials helped him build resilience, strength of character, and faith. All those things were essential for him to fulfill his leadership role.
Like those hardships shaped him into the leader he needed to be.
What a powerful way to put it. This makes us ask, what sacrifices are we willing to make to reach our goals and live out our purpose? Are we holding on to comfort or security instead of chasing something truly meaningful?
A strong reminder that true growth and impact often come from leaving our comfort zones and facing challenges head-on.
It's true. Sometimes those sacrifices might mean giving up personal ambitions, doing things that are scary, or just making choices that put the needs of others first.
Moving to the law of timing, Maxwell uses the story of Queen Esther to illustrate it.
Esther's story shows how important it is to recognize opportunities and know when to act and where to be patient. She was a Jewish queen in a foreign land where her people were about to be wiped out.
She had to be so careful, knowing that one wrong move could have terrible consequences.
Right? She showed wisdom and courage by waiting for the right time to reveal her identity and ask for her people to be saved. Her perfect timing allowed her to use her influence at just the right moment.
It's knowing when to act and when to wait.
Exactly. So we need to ask ourselves, are we good at spotting those important opportunities? Do we have the patience to wait for the best time to act, or do we just rush in?
Sometimes waiting for the right moment is braver than rushing in.
Absolutely. The law of timing shows us that good leadership needs both boldness and restraint. Leaders need a good understanding of what's going on and a willingness to adapt as things change.
From timing, we move to the law of explosive growth, using Paul's ministry in the early church as an example.
Paul's leadership style was truly revolutionary for his time. Instead of just trying to get a lot of followers, he focused on developing other leaders who could spread the message and start new communities.
He built a network, not just a crowd.
Exactly, that's what fueled the incredible growth of the early church. Paul knew that real growth wasn't about attracting a crowd, but empowering people to become leaders, creating a chain reaction.
A powerful model for creating a lasting impact. It's about going beyond individual limits.
Exactly. This makes us ask, are we creating followers, or are we investing in a network of leaders?
That's a question every leader should ask.
I agree. The law of explosive growth tells us that real lasting impact comes from multiplying our efforts by developing others. Now for our final principle.
We've seen the power of reproduction and explosive growth, but where does that lead us?
The ultimate goal, as Maxwell puts it, is legacy. He illustrates this using the law of legacy and the example of Jesus.
Jesus' approach to creating impact is a model for any leader. He didn't just teach his disciples, he intentionally prepared them to carry on his mission. Instruction, demonstration, experience, and affirmation, all blended together to ensure his leadership would be passed on and his teachings would last for generations.
It was a system designed to replicate his leadership, to create a lasting legacy. This leads us to think, what kind of impact do we want to have? Are we aiming for short-term gains, or are we trying to build something that will last?
A profound question that pushes us to look beyond ourselves and think about how we can contribute to something bigger. I see a theme running through all these laws.
You're right. That theme, I think, is the power of leadership when it's based on respect, empowerment, reproduction, and a willingness to sacrifice for something greater than ourselves.
Before we wrap things out, I want to touch on one more law that really resonates with me, the law of intuition. Maxwell doesn't explicitly state it, but it's there, especially when he talks about leaders like Deborah and David, who seem to have a knack for anticipating challenges and seizing opportunities.
Like they had a sixth sense guiding their decisions.
Exactly. We can hone our analytical skills and gather data, but there's something to be said for cultivating that gut feeling that often warns us of danger or points us towards promising paths.
I completely agree. That intuitive sense, trusting our instincts, can be a powerful tool for leaders. It helps us respond quickly to the unexpected, make decisions in unclear situations, and navigate complex environments more effectively.
I'm curious, how can we cultivate this intuition? Are we born with it or can we develop it?
Some people might naturally have stronger intuition, but I believe we can all improve it with practice and self-awareness. Paying attention to our physical sensations, emotions, and recurring thoughts can help.
Like tuning into our internal radar.
Precisely. By understanding these subtle signals, we unlock a lot of information that's usually hidden from our conscious mind. Mindfulness, meditation, and journaling can also help us connect with our inner wisdom.
Those are great suggestions. We've covered a lot today. Let's distill some key takeaways from Maxwell's book for our listeners.
I'd love to. If we boil down effective leadership based on what we've discussed, I'd say there are 10 key points.
I'm all ears.
First, respect is earned, not given. Just like Deborah, we gain respect by consistently exceeding expectations, empowering those we lead, and showing foresight.
It's about proving our worth through our actions. What's next?
Second, know your limitations and work on them. We all have those internal barriers or lids that hold us back, like Saul's fear and impatience. The key is to recognize them and actively work on overcoming them, whether through introspection, mentorship, or being open to feedback.
Self-awareness is key. What comes after that?
Third, build a strong inner circle. Following the example of David and his mighty men, surround yourself with a diverse group of talented and trustworthy individuals who bring different strengths and unwavering support to the table.
Assembling the right team is essential. What else should our listeners focus on?
Fourth, empower others. Barnabas showed us the importance of nurturing potential, even when others doubt. True leaders create environments where people can learn, grow, and eventually lead.
Empowering others is a true sign of a good leader. What's number 5?
Fifth, actively reproduce leadership. Go beyond training followers, like Moses did with Joshua. Mentor future leaders who can carry your vision and values forward.
Amplifying your impact by multiplying it. What's next?
Sixth, earn genuine buy-in. Much like Gideon, earn the trust and commitment of those you lead by being competent, having a clear vision, and genuinely caring for their well-being. True leadership doesn't force, it inspires.
Inspiring others to join the journey is crucial. What else is there?
Seventh, use momentum to your advantage. Recognize its power, like Solomon did, and work to maintain and increase it. Celebrate successes, learn from setbacks, and constantly look for ways to move forward.
Keep that forward momentum going. 3 more points. What are they?
Eighth, focus on what's important. Learn to identify the tasks that matter most, like Peter did, and use your time and energy on those. Don't get bogged down in trivial things or let yourself be pulled in too many directions.
Prioritization is a skill we all need to work on. What's number 9?
Ninth, be prepared to sacrifice. Moses showed us that real leadership often requires giving things up. Be ready to make tough choices, step out of your comfort zone, and put the needs of others before your own.
And finally, the 10th and final point.
10th, make the most of opportunities. Learn from Queen Esther, who knew when to act. Develop your intuition, seek advice from wise people, and be willing to take calculated risks when the time is right.
That's an incredible set of principles for aspiring leaders.
They're a great framework for navigating the challenges of leadership and creating a lasting impact.
This deep dive into Maxwell's work has been so insightful. It's amazing how these ancient stories still hold such wisdom for today's leaders. What stands out to you most from our discussion?
I'm always struck by how relevant these principles remain. If I had to pick one thing that resonates, it would be the focus on empowering others. True leadership isn't about holding on to power, it's about helping others grow, creating a culture of development, and making a bigger impact through their success.
That's beautifully said. And to our listeners, as you continue on your leadership journey, think about this. What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind? What mark do you want to make on the world? What steps can you take today to start building that legacy? Remember, it's never too early to start shaping a future that goes beyond your own lifetime. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into leadership and legacy. It's been a pleasure exploring these ideas with you.
The pleasure was all mine. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, keep learning, keep growing, and keep leading. Until next time, this has been The Deep Dive, your guide to becoming well-informed.